for simulated high-impact engagement for informed leadership and de-escalation. And basically what it is a preventative public health intervention for South Central Dallas between the ages, youth between the ages of 12 and 15.
Next.
So the problem is that South Central Dallas ranks in the highest CIT and EDO call volumes in Dallas, which basically is mental health volumes. And this is not crime. This is a mental health crisis that we really want to address because police are called for non-criminal behavior crisis and mental health crisis instead of professionals. They might ask why the ages of 12 to 15. Well, the brain is still developing. The prefrontal cortex, which controls your impulse and risk assessment, is still developing, while the amygdala, which fires up fear and anger, is fully online. And this age range, 12 to 15, is a fantastic opening that we can really exploit to engage the youth in highly receptive learning to ensure that they have the skills required to navigate tense encounters for the rest of their life.
So our program recognizes that youth behavior is shaped by structural violence, acknowledging that limited access to resources like mental health care, mentorship, and stability are factors that impact their behavior. And these conditions influence how youth respond in high-stress situations. SHIELD uses a VR training program originally developed with the Dallas Police Department to help youth practice decision-making and de-escalation before real-life consequences occur.
So let's take a quick look at the SHIELD program at a glance. It's going to be a one-time 12-month pilot program that aims to reach 150 to 200 youth in South Central Dallas on 3 pillars. Simulating, where we're going to put children into VR simulations with an existing SMU and DPD platform. They're going to have dialogue about those simulations after, and then we're also going to integrate the caregivers in our family section where we use targeted touch points embedded in the Stupunt's existing family stabilization program. A quick deeper dive into the VR simulation settings. They're going to be 45 minutes each with 10 to 15 youth in the settings. There's going to be a 15-minute orientation followed by a 30-minute simulation with gamified scoring system so kids can keep track of how they're doing within the simulations. There's going to be 3 perspectives for them to learn from. They're going to be the officer perspective, the youth perspective, and the community bystander perspective. They're going to see all of these perspectives of how to deal with a crisis scenario so they can better communicate if this does happen in real life. And we also recommend pairing with the SMU Meadows program and having the acting majors at the school be the ones within the VR program in order to have the highest amount of realism possible.
Our second component is a guided conversation where the youth will debrief and reflect on what they saw in the simulation. They will also learn about procedural justice, where they will learn about the rights when they have these police encounters and what fair and just treatment looks like. And they also gain real-world skills to use in actual experiences with the police. And our third component is family touchpoint via the SUPOT. Our program will be implemented into existing programs already at this SUPOT. There will be a 60-minute caregiver session where they will learn about adolescent brain development. There will also be a SHIELD resource guide given where they will be given resources on mental health, crisis, and family support resources. And like I said before, no new infrastructure will be created.
Okay, what this really talks about, like Matthew said, is that we want to use SMU Meadows because using the actors is something that costs a lot of money, but if you partner with SMU and we already have the resources, we can use the students that we have here to lower costs because they don't need to be paid, and they have a real-world connection because these students, just like the youth that they're targeting, have been through some serious CIT calls and understand the situation that they're going through. We need a way to measure these things to make sure that we're actually having the impact that we want to have. So we broke it into 3 terms: short term, medium term, long term. The short term, we wanted the knowledge to increase. Obviously, that's the whole point of the SHIELD program, to give them the tools to go through situations with law enforcement surrounding CIT with the tools that they need. We want them to have higher trust in law enforcement, and we want them to actually show up. That would be the engagement. So we want to track things like attendance, module completion, and things of that nature. Medium term, again, it's kind of building off of the short term. We want their knowledge and behavior to change. We want their perceptions of law enforcement to be greatly improved. If they see it through the eyes of a law enforcement officer through the VR program, they're going to realize that there are different things and different ways that they can show themselves that can lower escalation and not have as much use of force incidents. We also want long-term CIT call volume in South Central Dallas to decrease. We feel if this program really does what it needs to do, the kids will use word of mouth to kind of spread the word. So if you reach 100 to 200 kids through the program, word of mouth will spread. You can have a much larger impact than that. Again, use of force rates are lower. They understand the tools they can use to de-escalate situations. And then we just want the behavior to change long term. This will be a net positive overall. Cost benefit analysis. We broke it into direct cost and in-kind value. Basically, we did everything we could to save money. We understand that asking money from a government program is never easy, and the least cost is always the best option. So we use the VR module that's given to us, things like that. And one of the big things that we emphasized was no new infrastructure. STUPA already has the kids. DOJ brings the VR. If we put the kids and the VR together to see what law enforcement is like from a law enforcement person's perspective, we think that that'll positively impact their view of law enforcement, and we're trying to keep it cheap. So for $32,000 of in-kind value, we can give that to you for under $1,200. So essentially, SHIELD is ready to launch. We have no new infrastructure, and we think it's going to be a positive program overall. Thank you.